Do we have a motion to leave non-public?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to leave non-public.
I'll second that.
All right, motion to leave non-public by Counselor Granessi, seconded by Counselor McEachran. On the motion, Counselor Cherichello?
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Katsouris? Counselor Flood?
Yes.
Granessi?
Yes.
Counselor McEachran?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, we're out of non-public.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public indefinitely.
Second.
Aye.
All right, we have a motion to seal the minutes indefinitely by Counselor Granessi, seconded by Counselor Cherichello. On the motion, Counselor Cherichello?
Yes.
Counselor Katsouris?
Yes.
Counselor Flood?
Yes.
Granessi?
Yes.
Counselor McEachran?
Sure.
Chair votes yes, 6-0. Good evening, welcome to the Derry Town Council meeting for Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. Counselor Katsouris, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll do roll call. Counselor Cherichello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Counselor Katsouris.
Good evening.
Counselor Flood.
Hello.
Counselor Granessi.
Good evening.
Counselor McEachran.
Good evening.
And Counselor Spencer cannot join us this evening. Good evening from the chair and our town administrator and Madam Town Clerk. Thank you.
Motion to open the public forum, Mr. Chairman.
So
Second.
moved. Second.
All right, motion to open public forum, Counselor Cherichello, seconded by Counselor Katsouris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public forum is now open. If you wish to speak, please come up, state your name and address, and the floor will be yours.
Well, Mr. Chairman, seeing no,
Uh-oh, of course there is.
almost.
Just want to introduce myself. My name's Jack Webb, 25 Jewelwoods Drive, Derry, New Hampshire. And the other day I vowed to run for Phyllis's seat on the town
Hey,
council.
Jack.
So just wanted to introduce myself to you gentlemen and anybody in the audience. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Anybody else from the public wish to come up and speak?
Anybody online?
Seeing none online, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman, seeing no one online and no one jumping to the forefront, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Public forum, sorry.
Motion to close public forum, Counselor McEachran, second by Counselor Katsouris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public forum is now closed. Consent agenda 24-09, approved minutes from January 2nd, 2004. We're going to do this individually.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 2nd, 2024.
Second.
Okay, motion by Counselor McEachran, second by Counselor Katsouris. Counselor Cherichello?
Yes.
Counselor Katsouris?
Yes.
Counselor Flood?
Yes.
Counselor Granessi?
Yes.
Counselor McEachran?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, 6-0. Agenda item 24-10, approved non-public minutes, January 10th.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to seal the minutes of January 10th, 2024.
Second.
Okay,
Sec-
motion to seal by Counselor McEachran, seconded by Counselor Granessi. Counselor Cherichello?
Yes.
Counselor Katsouris?
Yes.
Counselor Flood?
Yes.
Counselor Granessi?
Yes.
Counselor McEachran?
Yes.
And chair votes yes.
Tina, that was indefinitely, please. My apologies. And then now I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes of January 10th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, motion to accept by Counselor McEachran, second by Counselor Katsouris. Counselor Cherichello?
Yes.
Counselor Katsouris?
Yes.
Counselor Flood?
Yes.
Counselor Granessi?
Yes.
Counselor McEachran? And chair votes yes. So moved, 6-0. Let me get to the chair's report here. Put my stuff here. We have some openings on the Net Zero Task Force that we're gonna like to, gonna do this first, and then I'm gonna go to the presidential stuff. You okay with that, Tina? And Lisa? Okay. We're gonna do, for the Net Zero Task Force, I move to appoint Sean Anderson as a member of the Net Zero Task Force for the term expire March 31st, 2025.
Second.
Okay, motion and seconded by Counselor McEachran. On the motion, Counselor Cherichello?
Yes.
Counselor Katsouris?
Yes.
Counselor Flood?
Yes.
Counselor Granessi?
Yes.
Counselor McEachran?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. I move to appoint Paul Dion as an alternate member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire March 31st, 2026.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded by Counsel Katsoukaris. On the motion, Counsel Cherichello?
Yes.
Counsel Katsoukaris?
Yes.
Counsel Flood?
Yes.
Counsel Graneski?
Yes.
Counselor McEachern?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Motion carries 6-0.
Did he just come back on? He's, as long as I know, he's
Yeah.
on that committee.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Did he take a leave of absence shortly?
I
there?
think it's great that he's coming back. He's
Oh,
got so
awesome.
much
Great
experience.
asset. He's coming out of retirement.
He's coming out of retirement, back on the board. Paul, thank you very much.
Now I'd like to bring up the town moderator, Lisa Hultgren, and town clerk, Tina Guilford, for the presidential primary after-action report.
Could you do the heritage?
Oh,
One more.
nope.
Oh,
Can do
we
that.
missed one?
Heritage
Hold on.
Commission.
You know what, mine was stuck together here, Phyllis. Hold on. No, that's it.
No, I don't have it.
Karen Blanchett,
No, that's something different.
It's
no?
not an appointment.
Okay, whatever.
He scared me, thought my papers were stuck. Like, I don't have that on my thing. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Lisa Hultgren.
In the microphone, honey. Hold the
Oh,
microphone.
sorry.
Yep.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Lisa Hultgren. I am the town moderator.
Tina Guilford, I'm the town clerk.
We just had, a couple of weeks ago, our presidential primary election here in Derry, and it went very well. As you know, New Hampshire is the first primary in the nation, and Derry has the distinction of being the largest single polling place, so it attracts a lot of attention. We had media from all over the world come to visit us on Election Day. The farthest away was Sky News Australia, but we were also contacted from Sweden, the UK. We had folks there from Globo from a couple of different countries. We had folks from Portugal and the BBC and Reuters and a lot of local folks too. So it was a busy day and it was a great day. So I would like to start by thanking our wonderful DPW, who comes in and does all of the heavy lifting for us, make sure that the polling place is set up. They run all of our electricity and set all the booths up and do 1,000,001 things to make sure that we are ready to go on Election Day. And then they come back and they take it all back apart and clean up after us, which is amazing. To the DPD for all of their hard work and rerouting the traffic for us and staying with us throughout what is usually a very long day. Also to the fire department and all of our amazing EMTs that stayed to make sure that everybody was safe throughout the day. Our administration and of course this council, every single one of you showed up on Election Day and stayed with us throughout the day as well. And we're helping people to be able to get in and vote and get back out quickly, which was amazing. I would also like to thank Pinkerton Academy for becoming our new polling place. And we appreciate them and their staff as well, who were also with us the night before and throughout the day. And the folks from CERT who came to help us with traffic and parking and directing people, which was fantastic. Our current checklist is 19,075 voters, of which 598 are new registrations that registered on Election Day. We took in a total of 8,998 voters, of which 529 were absentee. That is less than 50% of our list. I would like to just ask the townspeople of Derry to please continue to show up and vote. It's very important. We've heard things about traffic, and we've heard things about the polling place being on one end of town, and this town council has listened. We've got a new polling place, it's centralized, we've redirected traffic and done all kinds of things, so please continue to show up, it's very important. As reported by the Eagle Tribune, Derry was only one of 2 polling places or towns that did not hit 50% of their checklist. Both of them were in southern New Hampshire. So let's make sure that we're showing up to vote. We had over 125 workers and volunteers show up to work on Election Day to make sure that everybody was able to vote in a timely manner. And those amazing people volunteered 250 community service hours to Derry, probably a little bit over that. So good job to everybody. Let's see, there were 1,272 write-in votes processed at the end of the night. And that process was done relatively quickly because we had an amazing team of people also at the end of the night to count votes. Of the voters that showed up, 3,158 were undeclared voters when they walked through the door. 934 of those folks did not change back. Some of that is by choice. Some people were a little bit confused about the process to change back from an undeclared voter once they joined a party and cast their ballot. So if you feel like that was you, or that you might not be in the right party, after April 1st, you can go onto the Secretary of State's website and check your party affiliation. And then you will have until June to switch that if you need to switch it. If you know that was you and you just said, oh, I'll do it at Town Hall next week, please make sure that you stop by and check your registration, because it will not come up again until the next primary. So that will be 4 years. And it's easy to slip through the cracks. So I just want to make sure that everybody that wishes to change back does have the opportunity to do so. And you can stop by the town clerk's office anytime in regular business hours, Monday through Friday. Our next election will be March 12th, also at Pinkerton Academy. That is our town and school election. The supervisor's session closes on March 2nd. So you have until March 2nd, if you are a new voter, to come in and register before the checklist closes on the 2nd. And you can, again, come to Town Hall and write to the clerk's office, and they can help get you registered. For March, you can also, there will be same-day registration as always. You can register at the polls. The lines tend to be a little bit longer, but that is something you can do if you miss the March 2nd deadline. Again, I'm going to ask the people of Derry to please show up. Our turnout for our town and school elections tends to be very small. It has been, historically, we average about 1,600. That's not even 10% of our checklist. It's been as low as 900 people sometimes, and the largest one in the last 10 years was about 2,700. So I am going to encourage you, please, to show up. We got a much larger polling place, and we're working really hard to make sure that it's easy for people to come vote, but we can't continue to make accommodations if you don't show up. So, for instance, one of the accommodations that will not be made for March will be, there will be no traffic pattern change, because bypass 28 is a state road. We would need to be able to say there will be considerable traffic in order to have that closed for our town election. And, expecting 1,600 people on average, there won't be a traffic change. We will have maps and parking maps available on the town website in advance of that election, so you'll know, where to come in and park. The only two problems that we seem to have on election day was, one is a continuing problem with our electioneering zone. It is still the #1 complaint that we get from voters coming in. So we are looking at alternatives to kind of maneuver that around a little bit, and move the electioneering zone to make it so that people can come in and vote unimpeded and leave unimpeded. So if you are a champion for your candidate and stand outside of the election polling place with signs and whatever else, I'm speaking to you, guys got to do better. It is still the number one complaint that we get. So we are looking at moving that. And the other one was normally not a complaint we did get was the handicap parking. Some folks were confused on how to get into the handicap parking or just confused about where the handicap parking was. And so the Derry Police was great. They showed up with extra signs, some really big signs to put extra signs out there. And we are going to continue to have extra signs moving forward. And we are also going to have some extra staff. We are looking to partner with Pinkerton. And a lot of the kids that are in special programs at Pinkerton are required to do community service hours for whatever program that they're in. It is an amazing opportunity for the young folks in Derry to learn about the process and how it works and to become involved in the process. And they can start volunteering at 17. And we are specifically looking to partner with programs like the Junior Air Force ROTC, Future Business Leaders of America, National Honor Society Kids, and there are several other programs at Pinkerton as well that that kids will be able to come and help out at the polls. So we're looking to solve some of the smaller issues that we had, and they were small. We didn't get very many complaints at all, but we are taking them seriously, and we do want to handle those in the best way without adding to the bottom line either. We want to look out for the taxpayers as well. Tina?
So
I forgot to thank. She's amazing, by the way, and I couldn't do what I do without her, so thank you, Tina. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I forgot.
So just a refresher for the March election. We have a few things on the slate. Candidate forum, February 28th for the school, February 29th for the town candidates at the Opera House at 6:30. The supervisors of the checklist, again, the checklist will close March 2nd, which is a Saturday. And at that point, you'll be registering on Election Day. Again, March 12th, Pinkerton Academy, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. April 1st, you want to check your party affiliation on the Secretary of State website. And June 4th will be the last day to change your party affiliation for the September primary. So make sure you're in the right party. I have no words for voters who don't check their party affiliation. So please check your party affiliation, make sure you're in the right party. If you're not, move before the primaries, before the cutoff time. And I'd like to thank our moderator. Thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions for either of us?
Mr. Chairman? Great job. Yeah, just comment, you both did an amazing job. It was flawless.
I know.
Heard
It's
a lot
awesome.
of positive things about it, so thank you
Yeah.
both very much and all the workers and volunteers that came out to help. With that, anyone? Councilor Grassi?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say that myself and fellow councilors stood all day passing out those awesome little I voted stickers.
Aren't those amazing?
And everybody that walked out was like accolades to you two, the whole crew, everybody who was involved in Election Day. They really liked it. So I just want to pass that on to you. Like,
job.
everybody said thank you, we appreciate it, and townspeople appreciated it. Great job.
Well, in that case, I would just like to once again shout out to the amazing volunteers and poll workers that we have in Derry. Some of them are new and they did a fantastic job, and others come back time after time after time and work or volunteer their time for their community. And it's an amazing, amazing team that we have put together. And you guys, thank you also for all of you guys coming and working with us throughout the day.
Councilor Chiaratello?
I'm going to just echo the same sentiments. Very good job, everybody. Lisa and Tina, very good job. The only thing you had mentioned, Lisa, about the election airing area, there was an incident where somebody, a resident in my district basically came in and, for lack of a better word, it was almost like a gauntlet where you had people very close on both sides, and they were yelling and screaming, and this poor woman was visibly shaking when she came through, and she had asked for help getting back to her car, and I felt so bad for her, but she was visibly shaking. So I know you mentioned that you're going to look into that. I think that's a good idea. Maybe either, spread it out a little bit further so they don't feel like they're going through a tight gauntlet, or maybe everybody on one side. I don't know, but that's the only thing that I saw. I'm glad that I was.
And that was 12 feet.
Yeah.
Well, it started off as 12 feet.
We kept pushing it. People keep moving it. It's,
So that's something that we've been working on. The law says we have to have a minimum of 10 feet from the door, which is where we started when I first started this position. We would mark out 10 feet from the door, and then people would line up on both sides. But again, we were getting, it's a gauntlet, you have to compact, they're so close. And so, and because we were getting complaints of people yelling and shouting and things like that, we pushed it back. We now have it pushed back further away from the doors and also that 12 feet wide, but it still feels like a gauntlet. And nobody should ever feel that way going to vote, and that was very upsetting, not only
It's
for
very
her,
upsetting.
it was upsetting for me, it was upsetting for Tina, and that's why we did want to make sure that she got back to her car. And in that particular case, there were a few other incidents throughout the day, but in that particular case, the candidates weren't shouting necessarily at her, but I think they tend to forget that it's not a rally. They're not supposed to be banging signs and shouting. It's not a rally.
and it's startling.
It's very startling.
Well, anybody that's walked a gauntlet, you do get intimidated, And again, I felt bad for her. I walked her back to her car because she didn't feel safe, and that's, like you had mentioned, that's we never should have that.
Right. So we are, Tina and I have been discussing ways that we can solve that. Putting everybody on one side is definitely top of the list
Yeah.
of things that we're going to consider moving forward.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else?
Lisa, do you still have one more to go, or?
March?
I do, March.
And after that, I just want to thank you very much for the last couple of years. You've done a great job. I know that sometimes I can complain about different things, and people sometimes take me the wrong way, or maybe I take myself the wrong way. But anyway, good job. I know you got one more to go, but thank you very much for volunteering for the town.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank
both.
you.
Appreciate it.
I'll be back. Maybe
Okay,
not this, but
good.
I'll be back. Thank you.
Well, we still have your name on the volunteer list for every election.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. So the town charter requires the town council to meet annually with the boards and committee chairs to get updates on activities and projects currently and future items of activities. So with that, we'll start with the zoning board of adjustments. The chair, Lynn Perkins, will be presenting. Zoning first, yep.
Lynn is apparently two people.
Lynn is apparently two people, yes.
He needs a support, he needs
Hey,
a support person. Okay.
Well, you know what it is we're going to, Mr. O'Connor has shown us up tremendously the last few years, and so I said, I'm coming in with videos. And then I saw his pre-screen here, and I said, well, I'm going back home.
Be honest, if you've seen him keep track of names, he needed help getting from the seat to here, so we're good.
My counterpart here serves in two capacities in the community, and he's the vice chair of the board. I'll let him introduce himself.
Good evening, Craig Corbett, Vice Chairman of the Zoning Board.
And the reason I brought Mr. Corbett is not to hold my hand, but as you know, I've tried to emphasize over the last several years, as I've been chair, is always to make sure that everyone on the board has a participation trophy, and that they, in the absence, the board can continue to move forward in the direction that I've worked on to create. And I've had one instance over the years. Prior to Mr. Corbett being vice chair, where both myself and the vice chair had to recuse ourselves, leaving the secretary of the board to have to run the meeting. And whenever you have to run the meeting, it's a whole different show, right? So anyway, we'll get on with our presentation here. Mild video. And for starters, let me just recap our audit. Gotta find my paperwork here. So in this last fiscal year, 22 to July 1st, 2023, the zoning board heard 28 variance cases, 4 special exceptions, 1 administrative appeal, and 2 rehearing requests. We've had some changes in how we do joint committee meetings. Mr. McEcker and Mr. O'Connor have both had to assist in a different way. We've resculpted that, and that's been a different event, has it not, Mr. McEachern? Yeah. Recently, we've gone through the longest stretch with no cases, and I think Chairman O'Connor's going to kind of dabble in this a little bit, so I'm not going to steal his thunder, but with the economic climate, the direction we're going, we had a dry spell. Last case was October 19th, and we didn't have a hearing again until January 4th. Almost forgot what we were supposed to be doing when we came back, you know. Let me get on with one of our presentations. We actually have 3 segments, 3 parcels that we have seen. And it's not easy to give you this kind of presentation because often what the board oversees is shed placements on a property, and that's not overly interesting. But we've had these 3 pieces that will show you and kind of the mindset of the board and how we approach things. Of course, this is a judicial board, so it's not one decision, pushing other members to vote, but it's a collaboration, and now the state requires what's called a finding of fact, which was implemented about 2 years ago. And that helps corroborate kind of the decision and how it comes about. So that's kind of the spirit of how I'm going to share this with you here. This parcel you see on the screen is 35 Maple Street. I think you can see the business owner's truck in the background there, but this property suffered a huge loss, I think probably 2016-ish with a fire. I think a local contractor drove in with their heavy equipment to help knock the building down while it was burning. It was so severe. And you don't see many fires like that anymore, that's for sure, but this application was heard in May of 2018, and the variance requested started as a replacement of a 9,000 square foot warehouse area, and that was to replace the building that burned. The infraction on this application was seeking relief for a setback to a water body that was over 1 acre, and that was Horns Pond, which is right down behind this facility here. And also a use variance, because at the time, the warehousing was a non-conforming use. And between the time of the application process and the hearing, the use variance was withdrawn because the zoning requirements had changed. So it was simply a setback to the water body. I think the idea of the board was looking at this location and what it provided, and I think you can see by the condition there, you would be restricting and probably taking away from the owner's rights if you tried to do anything else. And I think that the board overall, and I kind of instruct this through the process when we bring in new members, kind of the thought process to how to evaluate these cases. Often, is it a reasonable request or is it excessive? So that's how we came about on this. And the application was approved by the board, but delays came about and the case came back before the board again in 2022. And the variance had expired, but the applicant altered the application to meet the new zoning, which was a setback distance from the front property line. Thank you, Craig. As well as the use variance once again. So what you can see up there is the 2 streets, Rollins Street and Maple Street, and kind of where the facility this was being proposed. I think this was the first application in 2018. And if you see the building, actually the newer proposal came in right along Rollins Street. And the reason for the pushback, no, I'm sorry, this is the 22 version. The reason for the pushback beyond 5 feet from the front boundary was so that they could have a loading ramp on the premises. And I think that's what it was, the loading ramp? Yeah. So anyway, that was that case. Mr. Corbett's going to explain to you the next case because he was he signed off on the decision on this. So then that's kind of the shared responsibility that we try to portray on the board. So Mr. Corbett, go ahead.
Good evening, Council. Once again, Craig Corbett, the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board. I'll be highlighting case 22-145. The applicant, Derry Plumbing and Heating, was requesting a variance to the terms of Article 3, Section 165-20A of the Town of Derry zoning ordinance to allow the construction of a commercial building less than 75 feet from a wetland that's larger than 1 acre at 69 through 71 Birch Street, parcel IDs 28001, 28002, more commonly known as Chutes Corner. The applicant was requesting a variance to allow the construction of approximately a 6,000 square foot commercial building less than 75 feet from a wetland that's greater than 1 acre in size. The property was currently vacant and previously contained a dwelling and a small convenience store that you see above. While the wetland in question is not designated as a prime wetland, due to its size, the 75-foot setback radius would render most of the property undevelopable without a variance. In addition to the wetland constraints, there were also restrictions on the deed such as no basement, no homes, no daycares, etc., limiting the options as to what can exist, which caused a hardship. The proposed use of the building for a plumbing business is allowed within the general commercial zone. Derry Plumbing and Heating has been in operation in Derry for over 30 years. The owner, Mr. Benedict, expressed that he wished to expand his business and build a new structure to have a larger showroom and an area for storage. His attorney stated that the company had outgrown the existing location and wished to stay in Derry, that this property had been sitting around for a long time and would be an ideal location for them to relocate to. He said he was not looking for a major deviation to the property and would make it a beautiful place and aesthetically pleasing to the public. Their operations manager then stated for the record that they had viewed other properties but would need to leave Derry to be able to grow without a variance, and ultimately they wished to stay in the community. The board felt that the 75-foot setback, along with the size of the property, made it undevelopable, that the former property had fallen into a state of an eyesore for a long time. Following our unanimous approval, Planning Board site plan review, including TRC review, was also required. The board felt that this was a win on all 3 aspects. It was a win for the townspeople to resuscitate and develop the historical corner, a win for a local business to continue to grow within the town, and a win for the town to retain a business and develop a previous blight in the area.
I think one of the other points to emphasize with this property, and I think you all recognize that building on the corner, was that the seller, which was ExxonMobil, had restrictions in their deeds as to who could purchase this and who couldn't, and residential was eliminated from this. And the idea was, I think, at one point with ExxonMobil, was that they did not want to face water lawsuits if a home went in there. Even though they never developed the parcel, that stipulation stayed intact. And so it put a lot of restrictions on what could go in here. And I think the marketing of the property was beneficial to it. And Mr. Benedict, the owner, is a veteran as well. And he expresses his, Derry is near and dear to his heart. So it was nice, in the spirit of what Mr. Corbett has expressed about this parcel, to see it come to fruition. And currently, Eversource in the last week or so has been there starting to do their adaptation, so the work may be progressing in the near future. The next slide is 140 Rockingham Road. Many of you might recognize this structure here, as well as the what was a barn off to the right of the screen. This application was for a wedding venue, and I would note that this application stumbled from the buyer's intent due to the pandemic, and then pulling the financial piece together was a stumbling block for them as well. Of course, with offices remote and you're trying to put together a major funding for a project like this, it created a bit of a timetable for them to get to us from the time of the listing of that parcel. Eventually, she finally gets to the ZBA in 2021, and the infraction here, or the request for relief, was a dimensional land challenge, or a use challenge. The zoning category here is general commercial 3, and the application was for a function center, primarily a wedding venue with a caretaker's residence, overnight accommodations, and effectively being centered around agritourism. Agritourism was something that started to be created, and there's case law on it that it was established. My recollection is somewhere around 2010, but I can be corrected on that. The GC3 was developed to complement the historic environment related to the Robert Frost Farm. This parcel actually had an old farmhouse on it, and recollection that this parcel here belonged to the Chisholm family, and I think the parents actually ran a small repair shop, small engine repair shop out of it. But it got pretty blighted, and referencing Mr. Granisi and Mr. McEachern, you both may be familiar with the development of that GC3 there.
Can I
Bev,
interject there?
you can.
Yeah, what we found interesting with the development of that GC3 was that it was put in place really to protect the Robert Frost Farm and to protect what would be going up around it, to make sure that we wouldn't take away from the area, put in a chain restaurant, put in, you know, a different type of shop that wouldn't be appealing. And listening to the applicant and her vision, not just for the property, but how it was going to play into Robert Frost Farm, and how it's being named after one of his poems, to discuss the rolling meadows in the back. You know, it was really a lot of thought put into it, that this is, you know, to Mr. Perkins' point, this is absolutely going to complement the property, that we felt very, very positive about.
Bev Donovan from Derry Economic Development came and spoke to this and found this to be an admirable approach to this, the use of this parcel. The board concurred on this, and the application was approved. This was a unique application and an example of the board understanding the direction and intent, the planning department, the planning board, the town council, and what I have instructed for several years to board members is understanding the pulse of the community, the spirit for which, and in which spirit of the ordinance is one of our 5 criteria by statute that an applicant has to answer to. But it captures that spirit of the intention of the ordinance, but also pulse of the community and the directions that we wanted to go. I think several years ago, probably in my second year of the chair of the zoning board, we really started collaborating and seeing more of a cohesive working group between the land use boards, and I'd like to say that that eventually evolved to a better relationship between the town council and the school board as well. So I like that that had carried on. And in this video or picture here, there's not much to show, but in amongst those trees there, you can see a cross beam in there. It's steel, and they're kind of in the early stages. But, you know, like the former case Mr. Corbett was just speaking of, sometimes you approve these things and then you see the trees come down and you think, oh my gosh, what's happening? Same thing here, you know, but the confidence on this application was very well thought out, and I think it swayed the board without much pain to it at all. So, and that's about it. The approval deferred the other overnight functions back to the planning board. I'm not really sure where that went. I'm sure Mr. O'Connor can shed some light on that. Once the horse is out of the barn, so to speak, we don't always see or hear much about it after the fact. So anyway, we're open to any questions if anybody would like to ask them, and other than that, we're done our presentation. So,
Questions?
Good, yeah, good job.
all right, very
Yes,
good.
very much.
Yeah.
One thing, you, on your paperwork, talk about your membership.
I'm sorry again?
You mentioned your membership in your,
Yes.
thing. You wanna mention anything about your membership and,
You mean my membership?
no, as far as what you're looking for?
Oh.
Where you are as a body?
Yeah, I think we're at 8 people right now, maybe 9. You have intermittent absences. We try to emphasize the Riggins rules. And that is, if you're going to be on a board, you need to be there a lot, right? You need to participate. So that's one of the emphasis that we have. Always looking to build the farm team if there's that opportunity. And I did submit my application for reappointments. I think we have 8 or 9, but, yeah.
Yeah, but anybody would like to, definitely looking for more alternates. You know, we'd like to expand the board, be able to have some more bodies on Mr. Perkins' point, as people can't come up, you know, if we have somebody missing due to a family vacation, due to sickness, due to anything, it'd be nice if we could get some more heads on there. So if you're interested, please join, as Derry TV calls us, the most exciting board in town, and we'll be more than happy to have you.
And I think that's actually 8. We have 3 alternates and 5 primary members as directed by law. Okay?
And this is one of the boards that's very prudent to come in and kind of, you got to learn. There's a learning curve to the zoning board. It's not some of the other boards and committees you can just jump on and kind of pick up.
Yeah.
It has a little
Yeah.
more to it than that.
Yeah, and to that point, right, our policies and procedures require that people have training, and training has changed a lot since the pandemic, right? And Mr. Corbett and I, different opportunities to make training points to the board members, just to key things, make sure that they're emphasized and people see that relevance, As I've said for many years, I don't tell people how to vote, but I do tell them what's significant to what they're weighing out. And I think when I first came on the board, I really didn't understand that relevance. And by my own learning curve and processes, you try to put yourself in the shoes of other people and what they're looking at when they come in. A lot of times you have a board like this and someone feels infringed upon, and so they decide to join the board. I think we've all been there, right? And then you get there and it's a little different when you're on the other side of the curtain, but we try to keep that spirit intact. So anyway, thanks for bringing that up, Charlie.
Yeah, one of the important things we train them on is definitely the procedure and the policies. What's been really important as we got up to the Supreme Court on an appeal earlier is making sure everyone understands the exact procedures that have to be followed, because a lot of what can come back, it's the dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's. More so than just the land use regulations. We need to make sure everyone's aware of exactly how we have to go through each case, which has been a lot of the important training.
Yeah. Very
Great,
good.
thank you.
All right, have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So now that we've had the opening act, we're going to bring on number 2, the planning board, Mr. O'Connor.
Hey.
Why he's coming up, Owen, when are you presenting? Because I want to hear why we're not the number 1 board. And by the way, just remember who controls your budget.
Right, that's right.
You may want to rethink the number 1 board there, buddy.
Good evening, Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Town Council, citizens of Derry. My name is John O'Connor. I'm the chairman of the planning board, and I think next year I'm going to have to bring reinforcements also. So my presentation to the town council starts with items of significance. Do I change that or you change it?
You can change it with the arrows if you'd like. Or if you'd like, I can change it, either way.
Why don't you do it, Owen?
All right.
First of all, we approve zoning amendments to the Independent Community Overlay District to be in compliance with state statutes for the 55-plus housing. In addition to that, approve zoning amendments in the traditional business overlay district, which is the downtown area, for new dimensional requirements to encourage new and development opportunities. We also approve zoning amendments in the traditional overlay business district on the north side of Broadway, moving 23 parcels to the central business district to encourage new and redevelopment opportunities. We also approved and adopted new planning board application fees in the land development control regulations. Both this category and the next category, it had been 10 to 15 years before we actually looked at all the fees, and we brought them up to par, what is typical in the construction industry at this point in time. So we also approved and adopted escrow workbook and construction standards and the land development regulations. In the area of residential and mixed uses, the approvals that we did were the townhouses. It's a 3-unit on Franklin Street, which is right around the corner here, that had fire damage. It's been torn down now and getting ready to move up. Also, we approved single-family 10 lots. In addition to that, most recently, as of a couple of weeks ago, we added 2 more groups of lots of 10 each. So there's 20 more different housing coming into the area, and they're very well done. Also, on the old junkyard, the 109 Rockingham Road, the salvage yard, that's moving forward. 23,300 square feet of commercial property was added to our tax structure. We also added 63 apartments, an additional 10 houses. Still in the pipeline, the planning board is continuing to see extensions request. As Mr. Perkins had indicated, they're seeing the same thing on their side. For previously approved projects, business continued to struggle with supply chain issues and financing as a result of increased interest rates. I watched on Monday the Federal Reserve when they were discussing and hopefully reducing the current interest rates, especially in the areas of mortgages and excuse me, businesses. They were very, very close, but they deemed that they wanted to wait one more quarter before looking at maybe readjusting the interest rates down. Hopefully they will follow through with that, because there are a lot of developers that we have given second, third extensions to, knowing about the delay and the issues with the financing. So there are people out there, they're waiting and getting ready to move as soon as some of these interest rates drop down. On the notable approvals, the former flagship cinema properties, 13,000 square feet, redevelopment to industrial warehouse on Ashley Drive. That had sat there for many, many years, so now it's back on the tax rolls. Pinkerton Academy, approximately 32,000 square feet for a new social studies building. If you go up there, Pinkerton Street there, you'll be able to see what's going on. Chipotle, 2,500 new restaurant going in there as the entrance going into where Hood Plaza is. Family Promise of Southern New Hampshire, new location in the former Vintage Grace building off of Peabody Road. Ahern and Nichols Dental Office addition, 2,085 square feet added on. Review of the new solar panel facility on the old landfill site of the transfer lane. And Mr. Jeff Moulton will probably be talking more about that there when he comes in. Also, we reviewed of the new fire station at Chutes Corner. Then we also approved of 2 lot subdivisions on Ashley Drive for future industrial warehouses site plans in 2024. That just came in front of the planning board again, finalized it. They're moving forward with that there. In addition to subdividing that 2 parcels, they also added to the Conservation Commission quite a substantial amount of wetlands and additional lands that abutted all of the abutters up there to make sure that stayed in perpetuity. That will always be available for the animals that go back there, the bears and the deers and so forth. So that's a nice venue that's taking place. What is next? Exit 4A, gateway zoning. Now that they've been moving right along on Exit 4A, that if you go up between 4 and 5, you can see the progress they're making on there, and pretty soon now moving down towards our area. We're also looking at downtown redevelopment opportunities via zoning amendments. We do have workshops, legislative updates, adult overlay districts, TBOD requirements, and The planning board, as the zoning board, we have a requirement in our policy and procedures for training also. The state sponsors a program both on zoning and on planning where they have a test that you can go in there and you can get a certificate for that, or you can take it and have credit for it. They also have on their website numerous amounts of past webinars of various things, whether it be zoning, planning, so that if you're looking at a particular area that you're facing with, then you can review some of the documentation on there. Plus, they update the manuals that the planning board has and the zoning board has every year based on all the new legislation that Phyllis passes in Charlie. And then they're going to continue in collaboration with town departments and staff. Now, what's not on here, and I gave it some thought over the weekend, is that we're missing a tab, and we're going to add that. I've already talked with Mr. Cioris about this next year. And a very important piece that we don't really talk about much is the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission. And I just want to briefly bring up a few things. The Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission provides services and resources to the town. And basically, their dues is 6 cents per population, which is not that much, and it hasn't changed in the last 3 years. The commissioner's members is Mr. Jeff Moulton, who's sitting here, who is also on the executive committee, state rep and zoning member, Mr. Tripp, myself on there, and George Cioris is on a special technical advisory committee. So what does SNHPC do? A couple of highlighted ones is they do a lot of traffic studies, especially when we're doing some of these very large complexes that are coming into town. They also did a lot of rail trail counts that helps in getting various grants. They also initiate the 10-year transportation plan before it moves into the legislative house. So there's about 13 or 14 towns that are on Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and so we all get to work together and try to make sure whatever we're doing for the future in transportation and various modal areas, freight, et cetera, is done properly. One of the biggest things that's taken a long time was the whole state of New Hampshire was the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. And that brings a lot of information on how we can get tax credits and so forth, workforce housing. The next one that is very important is an implementation of a $500,000 brownfield grant that they're working on. And then one of the final ones is they work with the town staff on a grant to fund Pathways to Play. So that's what's going on with Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and I'm going to add that on for next year's review. And we're going to go into thank you. And again, on the DerryCAM, Owen and his team, because the planning board stayed with virtuality, and which helped quite a bit, especially with the Zooming and for the man behind the curtain. I want to thank the Technical Review Committee. They're a huge asset to the planning board because they take a lot of the rough edges off before it gets to the planning board. So it makes our job a lot easier to move through things and help the developers get back out there and move forward. Planning staff, I say a lot with George, and sorry to say we lost Elizabeth, but her career path was, an opportunity for her, and we wished her well, and so she was a huge asset to this town. On the planning board members, I just like to personally want to thank them. I had a medical issue last year, and Mr. Nelson, my vice chair, and the other members stepped up there and did an awesome job. And so that fortunately with the virtuality, Owen was able to lock me in periodically on Zoom. So with that, that completes the planning board. We do have a lot in the queue coming up. I don't want to say at this time here, we got the Spofford area, which I already had mentioned, and then there's some other areas that are very large parcels that are going to be discussed. And then hopefully the Gateway TIF program coming up too. So with that, I thank you all.
Questions, comments?
Good job.
Good job. Good job, John. Thank you.
Good job, honey.
Welcome back.
Yes.
Great to see you, John.
Thanks for all your work, Mr. O'Connor. Appreciate it. Next, the Heritage Commission.
Karen
The chair will be Karen Blanford Anderson presenting for us.
Blanchard. Yep. Yay.
Good evening.
Good evening. How's everyone tonight? Again, I'm Karen Blanford Anderson. I'm the current chairperson of the Heritage Commission, and tonight we're just going to kind of go through some of the things that we've done over the past year, and then show a few items, and then talk about what's coming up for next year. So the purpose of the Heritage Commission really is to provide information and direction for anybody interested in the history of the town, preserve the town, look at ways to educate and provide information for later generations that come down. Our current members, myself, Paul Lindeman, who's our vice chair, and a couple things about some of our members. Paul is actually, too, one of the people that's instrumental in the restoration of the meeting house up at the First Parish Church. Thomas Cullinane, TJ Cullinane, he is our director of the Junior Historian Program. He has expertise in Derry Military, the Forest Hills Cemetery, and he actually wrote a book last year on the Civil War veterans from Derry that came out. Mike Hill is a member. He also is an expert on Civil War, both in Derry as well as in New Hampshire. And we have a fairly new member, Lynn Mary. She actually comes to us from Hudson, having several years on the Hudson Historical Society. We are always looking for new members, new volunteers, even if you don't want to be a member of the commission and you have time to volunteer at the museum or some of the other activities that we have around town. We're always looking for people to do that. So please just reach out to one of us or come down to the museum at some point in time. So over the past year, our major project has been the museum. We had a phase 1 and a phase 2 renovation. Planning for that, we decided that we were really looking to put together a storyboard for the museum. So we have probably over 10,000 artifacts in the museum, between pieces of elements of the museum as well as photographs. We work with the library over the years. They've scanned in a lot of the postcards that we have, a lot of the photos, but a lot of the items in the museum, we really want to put together, what they were, why they were, how they were relevant. So the first phase, we kind of chunked it into 3 parts, where we came from and who was here before, the Abenakis, the Scots-Irish settlers that came over, as well as our patriotic community, which is kind of the Revolutionary War period. So we work with the design team to put together these panels that kind of lay out the story for us. And then we took a chance to renovate the museum. Phase 1, like I said, was these 3 elements. Phase 2, which we'll talk about, is the Alan Shepard room, and we'll show you some pictures of that. So kind of phase 1 into the entrance area, we do have some multimedia now with some videos that were taken. We work with the Ulster Scots group that helped us with the 300th anniversary for some of the information and professional videos that we run now on a monitor. You'll see kind of in the, I don't know where my mouse went, but on the right-hand side is the current one. The past one shows a lot of the artifacts, and as we work through that, we're going to start putting the artifacts back in with elements to tell the story. The second part, which is really kind of an interesting part, because we have this dugout canoe that we are looking to carbon date, but we know that it basically falls back within the early part of the town. It was pulled off the bottom of Beaver Lake. We really couldn't move that physically in the museum. So what we did was we left that canoe in place and worked to build around it. So you'll see on the right-hand side the new display with the canoe in place, and then what it looked like on the left-hand side prior to the update. So there were a lot of cleaning out, a lot of weekends in there working, painting, getting it set up so that we could now work people through it, again, telling the story. The same with the entrance area, the fireplace area. We want to keep that intact, so we worked within those elements and building the sign and the story for that part. And then like I said, the Revolutionary War element to it, we really worked hard. The junior historians were part of it to bring this up to date and up to speed, and as we work through it, we'll build it out. One of the things we are really proud of is this new Alan Shepard area. The junior historians spent 4 or 5 weekends in there cleaning it, painting it, and then putting together the display that you'll see there. We had a great opening for Alan Shepard's 100th birthday. Thank you for coming down, Dave, Phyllis, anyone else that came in. We were very excited to do that. It has turned out to be a fabulous area. We get a lot of people that come through. They're excited to see it. It worked out very well. Again, there's still a lot of items that we have in the cabinets below that we're starting to pull out and put stories to them, do a little bit of research, put some things out. You'll notice our website. Paul Lindemann, who also has a lot of graphic arts capabilities, has just updated our website. So there's some new photos there. It's looking good to kind of push the message out to the townspeople of what we have as well. Ongoing projects for 2024, of course, we're cataloging all the elements that we have. We have a software that's based specifically for museums called Omeka, and we're putting all of that in. It is internet-based so that anybody in town can actually go onto it. There's a link from our website at the museum and take a look at what's in there now. Over the next few weeks, we're going to have more things going in there. Friends of the Forest Hill Cemetery tours, restoration projects that go on there, that's ongoing. Typically the winter elements hit the cemetery in the historic area. The town takes care of the majority of the cemetery. The Heritage Commission keeps an eye on the historic areas that are typically toward the front of the gate, but on what we call Settlers Lane, Founders Row there, we keep an eye on a lot of that. Updating the museum, there's still more areas that we're going to look at, but we've got elements that we want to add to it. Continuing graphics and elements for speaker opportunities. We work with the libraries. We work with the school systems to speak at different areas there to just keep educating them on it, as well as we consult on different groups, which is the Stagecoach and Robert Frost Byway committees, which is two state committees. The Arts Council, we work with the Downtown Economic Development Group to partner with them, some of the things that are going on. We are helping and participating in Frost Fest, so we will be open for Frost Fest. So if you haven't seen the new layout of the museum, please come down, take a look. It's really exciting. We're all pretty excited about what's going on there. And any questions?
Questions? Comments? I have a
Chairman?
question regarding,
Oh, no,
sorry,
go
one second. Just for the people at home, the hours of the
Okay.
museum.
Yeah, so the hours of the museum right now, we're open every Wednesday night consistently from 6 to 8 o'clock. That's when the junior historians are there. They'd love to give you a tour. Then we're open by special request right now. We are looking for volunteers, so we can try to be open more. But if they need somebody, we have groups that come in through special request. If that's something they're looking at, we can always try to find a volunteer to open for them.
And is the Wednesday, is that year-round or is that just
Yeah,
seasonal?
right now, year-round.
Okay,
Okay?
great. Councilman Gudarski?
I was just going to say, yourself, the board members, the junior historians, did a great job down there. I was there for that Alan Shepard Open. I took a walk down there, and it looks really nice. People should go check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
Ver-
Yeah.
it's very
If you haven't
interesting.
been there, if you've been there before, but you haven't been for a while, come down. There's a lot of new things going on that we do. And the objective is to rotate things through so that 2 or 3 months from now, there may be some new things there. There may be additional things in the areas we have, special displays. We do also do the cabinets down here in the town hall, so we're rotating different displays through there as well. We've got a couple that are, kind of on the queue that we're working on, so those will move from those cabinets into the museum and follow up from there.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate all you do, all the hard work.
Good job.
Next, building and property maintenance. Mr. Bob Wentworth presenting.
Here he comes.
Good evening. How are you
Good
tonight?
evening.
I know everybody else has asked you, but,
Oh, well.
oh well, excellent. So. Hang on.
Get your goggles.
Yep,
Gotta be able to read the report.
absolutely. So, the Property Maintenance Committee was formed in 2015 and held its first meeting on March 15th, 2015. This committee is comprised of staff members from multiple departments, as well as members of the community. And the primary objective of this committee is to maintain the buildings and properties of the town of Derry in a, I hate to say, a minimally code compliant condition, but that's kind of what we're stuck with. This list initially consisted of 43 properties, but through efforts of my department and others in town, it's been pared down to about 7 on the active list and several others on a, I call it a potential list. They're there, we're dealing with them, talking with people to see if we can keep them off the list. So this list is constantly changing. Let's see, and as of late, we had 2 properties that unfortunately we had to take into Brentwood Superior Court, and that was after multiple letters and conversations we had with them to try and avert that. So, if you have any questions.
Question? No, for the,
Thank you, Rob. You guys do a good job in that group.
yeah, and for the
Yeah, we
people at
try.
home.
Appreciate it.
So for the people at home, Bob, if they have a complaint, they
They
can.
would call,
obviously one of us, but more
yeah.
importantly, reach out to code compliance and,
Call the building department, yep.
have them,
Yeah, we can fill out a complaint form, or they can send us an email. Sometimes just a phone call's enough.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your
Good
night.
job.
Up next, we have Highway Safety Committee, Scott Savard.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Get my glasses on so I can read this.
It's tough getting old.
I know, getting old, right? So my name is Scott Savard. I'm the chair of the Highway Safety Committee. Been on the committee now, I don't know, 5 years plus. I just keep getting voted in as chair, so here I am. Derry Highway Safety Committee was originally conceived to provide a means to access state and federal funds for the safety needs of the town. The committee started in the late 1960s and received funds for ambulances, police vehicles, radar units, and more worthwhile projects that have funneled into the town of Derry by the committee. The committee normally meets every third Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. at the Derry Municipal Center here on the 3rd floor in the town council meeting room. All safety requests must be submitted in writing, and forms are available online. You can look it up on the town's website. We are an advisory committee. We can make changes by bringing forth to the town council and seeing if we can make more safety changes for the town. You guys have to vote on it. We vote on it, but we bring it to you and you guys make the final say. The committee is comprised of citizens and department staff. The members include the Derry Police Chief, George Fioli, Derry Fire Chief, Jim Richardson, Department of Public Works, Alan Cote, Supervisor Operations, and the School Department, Jane Samard. Appointees are myself as chairperson, Ronald Goldthwaite, which is co-chair, Randall Chase, Walter Deo, James Roddy, Jody Nelson, and Jill Janro as our recording clerk. Pretty much on the committee, us citizens, so to speak, we're not paid for this. We're volunteering. We rely pretty heavily on the department staff for technical support, so to speak, and to come up with what we should be following and that kind of thing as far as guidelines for the committee. This past year, we reviewed a number of cases having to do with safety concerns, which ranged anywhere from requests for, like, no turn on red light during school hours, no parking, stop signs, speed limit signs, blind driveway signs, pedestrian, the light flashing beacons that you've seen about town for the crosswalks, rail trail downtown, that kind of thing, and general safety and speeding concerns, lower speed limit, and requests for fog lines. The committee has also conducted multiple new site review plans, which you've seen many of those tonight at the planning review when they did their presentation. Reviews to proposed buildings projects to ensure safety for motorists and pedestrians entering and exit those sites. We are awaiting the safety study to be completed on the traffic circle, as it was requested in the budget year, I believe is 24-25. We're looking to see the results on that and any improvements for safety we can make on the rotary. We're also looking forward to working with the state of New Hampshire on the road upgrades for exit 4. Sounds like there's gonna be multiple changes going on there as well. Citizens frequently attend the meetings to voice their concerns regarding motorist speeding, street lighting requests, and signage that they feel the town should consider. A lot of these, the speeding requests or traffic counts come from the town or the police department. They handle most of those. Like to thank all the departments, police, fire, town administration for helping us out and pointing us in the right direction. Do you guys have any questions at all?
Questions, comments? Well, thank you guys again for what you do as well. You do a lot of heavy lifting before it gets to here, or even you mitigate stuff before it gets to this level.
We try to anyway, yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
No, thank you.
Great, thank you, have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Last but not least, Net Zero Task Force, Mr. Moulton. Good evening.
Good evening. So we've had an eventful year. We haven't completed as many projects as maybe we would like, but the big project being the landfill solar project. And I think what we've experienced there is really from the federal and the state side is a lot of staff turnover. And so getting a lot of the permits from the environmental side, planning, from the DOE grant, it's all been staff turnover that we continue to have to deal with different people, Mike Fowler in particular, to get some of these permits in place so they can begin construction. The good news is that most of the permits are finished. We are wrestling with Fish and Game right now over a rare threatened bird out at the landfill site that they want to do a 6-month study on. But that was a year and a half ago since we submitted, and I think hopefully they'll come around to letting us move ahead by the spring. But so things are on schedule right now, where we believe the project will be completed by the end of the year. So we will be in operation by the beginning of 2025. There is one request from the supplier that where they are requesting an escalator clause, and I won't discuss that tonight because it's probably going to be dealt with through negotiations and probably a private or private session with the town council. We continue to help businesses and residences on education and availability of grants and funding for their projects. The schools, we helped with a large grant application early last year for about $5 million. We weren't chosen, unfortunately, but it was a chance to work with them, particularly Joe Crawford. We are working on another application that's coming, or another grant opportunity through the greenhouse gas funding from the federal government. It could be in the order of 10 to 20 million. And that would be used for upgrading some of the buildings, and at the same, to make them more energy efficient, but at the same time allowing the structure to accommodate solar panels. Electric vehicles, we've done a lot of work last year and expect to do more work this year. Through Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, we became aware of federal funding for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And we applied through the Planning Commission for about $1 million in funding back in March of last year. The the DOT decided to take out all EVCS funding out of the 10-year plan in March. And then at the last minute in November, they put it all back in, and they did not put our particular project in, and they eliminated it because they felt that it had vehicles in it, which is incorrect. The problem with that is that we had removed the cars at their request back in March. Somehow they forgot about the project. They put it in late, so we never had a chance to catch the error. It's already gone to the governor for his review. So at this point, we have to go to the state reps to get the 10-year plan amended to see if we can get this plan or this money put back in for Derry. We've been educating our state reps on this, and I'm going to be testifying next week at the Public Works Committee for a change in this program. So I hope we can get your support on that. And then we have the Community Choice Program. You've seen probably a lot of towns announce on the behalf of residents, third-party supply. We've been watching this very carefully. We have, with agreement with Dave and Mike, gone ahead with Standard Power. They are getting ready to pull the trigger on this, but what they're waiting for is a more solid third-party price that will allow us to be under the Eversource rate. If you've been following the Eversource rate, they did drop it quite a bit on February 1st down to 8.2 cents. So it's going to be hard to match in the near future. But the expectations is that as in particular, the natural gas market kind of flattens out, that we'll be able to come in under that for the residents. And so we're hoping to roll that out in the second quarter of this year. And so that's primarily it. I kind of covered what we've done and some of the things we're going to be working on this year. We are hoping to do maybe a first electric vehicle for the town. I did put some slides up here. We've been working pretty hard on this for a couple years. A couple of us have electric vehicles. I have a truck. Chris Cox has had a couple of the Teslas. We put in, let's see. Yeah, so this is, unfortunately, that didn't show up very well. But this is the results of the Ford Lightning truck for the last 12 months, where we've looked at the performance of it based on what we compared to on some of the existing gas vehicles. But the prices have came out pretty low when they were first introduced in 2022. They're about $40,000. But they were so popular that they went through a couple price increases up to 49 and 56. Now they're back down to 49, and they're pretty much on the lot now. So the prices are stabilized, and there's actually some dealer incentives you can get below that. But what we're seeing with that vehicle, it's a heavier vehicle. It's about 2.5 miles a kilowatt hour. And if you do the math, that comes into maybe half of what you're paying for gas. In particular, when you look at the driving pattern of the truck, it gets much better mileage at low speeds than it does on the highway. If you go over 65, the aerodynamics of this vehicle really drops your mileage quite a bit. But when we look at the average vehicle in town and how they drive, they don't rarely go out on the highway, and so it is mostly around town. So we would expect at least 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour for if they start introducing the truck in town for administrative trucks. So we see at least half savings on fuel charges. And then what we saw was very dramatic around the maintenance side. As you know, there's no transmission, there's no engine. The only maintenance on the truck is to rotate the tires every 12 months, which is about $30 a year. You will see the need to for new tires and brakes every few years, every 3 to 6 years probably, but that's kind of on par with what you would see with a gas vehicle. With the Tesla, I don't know what happened. Here's the Tesla. The Tesla is similar. They've had some pretty good price reductions. So the only real big difference is the mileage. You will see a much higher mileage because of the weight and the aerodynamics of the vehicle. So we think this would be a very good introductory car, not necessarily the Tesla, because there's probably 20 or 30 different vehicles now on the market. But we think this would be a great new electric vehicle, would be a great introduction for the town. They get comfortable with the usage, have a preliminary place to plug it in out here, and we believe you'll see some significant savings for the town over time, which I'll cover in a minute. This is the initial fleet of vehicles that we think would be good candidates for replacement in the near future. A lot of them are trucks, but in code enforcement could possibly use a car instead of a Ford Explorer. So implementation, we think primarily most of this can be done with level 2 chargers. It's essentially looks like a dryer plug. It gets you a charge overnight. You know, almost all the vehicles here in town are used during the day, and then you have the opportunity to charge it overnight. The exception being the police cruisers who operate on a 24-hour basis, and that's where we would be looking at a high-speed charger out at the Public Works. O&M, I mentioned, is very, very strong for the electric vehicles and as well as the trucks. We see savings of 50 to 90% on O&M and 50 to 60% on fuel savings. So when you do the math on a truck, you'll see fuel savings around of about $8,000 a year. This is based on the average usage of miles for DPW of about 6,000. The maintenance is about $2,400, so you see over $10,000 in savings going with an electric vehicle versus a electric truck versus a gas truck. Car savings are a little bit lower because it doesn't use as much fuel, but savings of around $4,900 for fuel and about $2,400 maintenance. So that kind of wraps it up, but we would like to encourage the town as they look at the budget for next year to invest in at least one electric vehicle. I think it would be a good opportunity to learn about it, and it will be some obvious savings for the town departments. Any questions?
Questions?
Nope. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Good job.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you for all
you.
your work you're doing, you and the committee.
Say that again?
Thank you for all the work you and the committee are doing, putting into all this.
Yep, we have a good group of folks. We got about 9 folks. We have a couple alternates, which I think you just filled one tonight. And then we have one from the Conservation Committee that is also a vacancy.
Nice. Well, again, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And TA's report, Mr. Karen.
Thank you. This being February, we're well past the 6-month mark of our fiscal year, so our CFO, Mark Fleischer, will give the council an update on the financials as of December 31st. Mark?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Arrow key.
Yes, please.
So this is the FY 2024 second quarter financial report, period ending 12/31/2023. For this exercise, December is 50% through the fiscal year. We're going to talk about general fund operational revenues and expenses. Those general fund operations do not include taxes, overlay, TIF, capital, and EMT revenues or expenses. Also keep in mind that revenues and expenses can run higher due to contractual obligations booked for the entire year. So as of December 31st, 2023, in FY '24, our operational revenues were 71% of budget. Our operational expenses were 60% of budget. In FY '23, for the same period, revenues are 80% of budget and 70% of budget for expenses. So some revenue variations for operations. Some of the activity centers or items that were tracking above the 50% benchmark. For fire, we had receipts of contracted ambulance and dispatch services for half a year, and also ambulance revenue is trending above budget. In tax, motor vehicle registrations are 52.5% of budget. The tax collector reports that recent transactions have included higher-end vehicles, increased volume in private sales, and title applications, as well as new vehicle registrations. Year-to-date, motor vehicle revenues is $123,600 higher than a year ago. In IT, intergovernmental revenue from cable, water, and wastewater was booked. In OMO, interest revenue is 189.7% of budget. For town clerk, marriage licenses and vital records are greater than 50% of budget, and civil forfeiture revenue is 179.2% of budget. In planning applications are 307.4% of budget, and in in code enforcement, building permits, 105.7% of budget. Some of the items that are tracking below the 50% benchmark. In administration, business license revenue is 37.6% of budget. In health, permit revenue is 42.7% of budget. However, there'll be more activity of that in Q3 and possibly Q4. In police, the annual school resource officer billing to Pinkerton will be processed in the fourth quarter. For town clerk, dog license revenue is 26.8% of budget, but there should be more activity in Q3 and 4. In cemetery, perpetual care and burial cremation revenue is less than 50% of budget. In recreation, transfers from Alexander Carr and McGregor Trust should take place in Q3 and 4. In parks, there will also be a transfer from the Alexander Carr Alexander Trust in Q3 and 4. In highway, inspection fees are 23.2% of budget, and there'll be a transfer from the Municipal Transportation Trust taking place in Q4. Transfer station, cardboard and aluminum recycling revenues are less than 50% of budget, and that's due to soft pricing for those commodities. Some of the expense variations now, departments are trending individually between 36% and 106% of budget for expenses. So in fire, there's 6 vacant positions as of 12/31 for paramedics, and I believe there's 1 open position for a fire inspector. For police, they have a patrolman vacant, they have the K-9 officer vacant, they have 2 dispatchers and 1 part-time prosecutor open. So other expenses that are exceeding the 50% benchmark, going back to fire, their overtime is 91% of budget, and that's offset due to their vacancies. In IT, the annual software support payments were processed. In OMO, earned time buyouts with roll-ups is 166.2% of budget, and that's primarily because a lot of people are retired. We'll take care of that by year end with probably a transfer from our capital reserve account. Human Services, annual agency payments have been encumbered. For the elections, voting machines are encumbered. In highway, the annual roadway maintenance and road salt is encumbered. And in the transfer station, the annual contracted services is encumbered. Other information. At 12/31/2023, 94.5% of the November 2023 tax billing had been collected. Also, at December 31st, 2023, the total interest allocated since July 2022 on the unspent fire station bond proceeds totaled $1,192,777. Those funds were earning 5.48% at 12/31/2023. So that is my report, and I'll be glad to take questions, Comments?
Yeah, I just want to thank the staff for putting together the report. I mean, as everybody's aware, I'm on the finance team with Mark and Dave, and we have our meeting before this meeting. And, you know, the questions always come up, how we doing? And I can safely say, after the meeting, we are in great position again, as we always are, and tremendous work by Mark and everybody in the tax collections, and, you know, everybody's just doing a bang-up job down there, making sure we stay in good position. We're making some good money on our investments, and we continue to remain in solid financial position. So thank you, Mark, to everybody
you.
in the organization, doing a great job.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Got a couple other notes is that Mark completed the draft of the FY 25 to 30 capital improvements program. Pursuant to the charter, it needs to be presented to the planning board for their review and comment. So we'll be doing that on February 21st, and then the council will dive further into that program as part of the review of the annual budget during the month of April. Senator Birdsell was successful meeting with the Rules Committee in Concord to file legislation which allow the town to charge a surcharge on sewer services to out-of-town customers, sort of similar to the water wheeling legislation which we passed a couple of years ago. And it'd simply be a reflection of the investment made in our sewer system by Derry residents and Derry ratepayers. And so we'll be accruing some additional revenues from out-of-town customers, which will be used or can be used for either utility extensions or economic development activities. On the fire station, the site work continues. We expect the foundation work to begin in February. And towards the end of this month, we'll be receiving proposals on the other subcontracts, being general construction, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, and fire protection. And financially, the project is still on track. We're currently under budget with the first two contracts. However, you know, we'll know much more towards the end of this month when the rest of the contracts and bids have been received. On the Exit 4A project, NHDOT will bid the project in May of this year. One portion will not be included at this point is a traffic light at Laconia. That will be put on as an ad because we're still working, we being the town is working with DOT and the various owners of land there. The recommendation and proposal is to have the town purchase the surplus land upon completion of the project and enter into a number of transactions to have some boundary line adjustments with the abutters to give the police station more room, give the car wash a little more room, and also orient that development project towards the rear of Folsom Road North, more towards the frontage of the property. And finally, I'd like to congratulate our Fire Chief, Jim Richardson, on an exceptional career of 31 years in the community. The chief recently notified me he'll be retiring from the fire department effective May 1st. As the council is aware, I'll need to appoint a new fire chief, which requires council confirmation, and we'll be doing that in the upcoming meetings. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, on the legislative front, there are two bills I want to bring to the council's attention. One is HB 1479. It's a bill which is filed during every session, and it seeks to prohibit the use of public funds for lobbying activities. And it's really aimed at groups such as the New Hampshire Municipal Association, the New Hampshire Chiefs of Police Association, the Association of Counties. We collectively use those organizations to advocate for and protect municipal interest at the state level, and requiring, essentially eliminating these organizations would require myself and a lot of the senior staff to spend a lot more time in Concord, which doesn't make a lot of sense to us. So I'll be testifying on behalf of the town tomorrow morning, requesting that the legislative committee vote inexpedient to legislate. The other bill I want to bring to the council's attention is SB 553. You notice the return on investment for the fire station bond. That is currently invested with the Public Deposit Investment Pool, which is actually a creation of the state. And the State Bankers Association is working with some senators to provide and place additional restrictions on where those funds can be reinvested, which will have, quite frankly, the effects of reducing the interest rates on what we earn. And we've taken a look at our other investments in town. We currently have about 35% of our cash invested with PDIP. And based upon our other investments, with PDIP of 5.48, the weighted average of all our other investments is 3.95. And if those two numbers held, the town would realize a net realize $521,000 less in interest income over a year if that bill is passed. So there was a hearing on it yesterday, and I've sent a letter to Senator Birdsell expressing our disappointment with the bill, and hopefully she will advocate to have the bill killed.
What's the House bill number? The first one.
The first one is House Bill 1479.
All right, Councilman McEachern, you have a question?
The Senate bill, anything you need us to do?
Yeah, we'll see how if you can get a hold of the senators. I've got a letter I sent over to which I'll be sending copies to the council tomorrow via email. So it's with Senate Finance now, so any other senators you're aware of, please let them know.
Yeah, anything you need me to do, let me know.
Appreciate that very much.
All right, that's it? You good?
Thank you.
All right. New business. 24-11, Resolution 2024-007 to authorize lease amendments at the Adams Memorial Building. Mr. Karen.
Okay, thank you. We have several tenants at the Adams Memorial Building. Two of those tenants, the Greater Derry Arts Council and the Greater Derry Londonderry Chamber of Commerce, have been looking at their office space in that building, and they felt they both would gain efficiencies by essentially swapping offices. So we're looking for the council to approve revised leases. The only change is that the chamber will be taking less space. The Arts Council will be given additional space. It is revenue neutral for us. There'll be a reduction in rent for the chamber and increase in rent for the Art Council. No other provisions of the leases currently in agreement, which the Art Council expires on December 31st of 2031, and the chamber expires on December 31st of this year, will be changed.
Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I'll read this, and before I do, the conference room, the chamber, and then there's the big conference room. Do the Arts Council get both? They'll have the office and the big conference room?
That's correct.
Okay. Resolution number 2024-007 to amend land leases at the Adams Memorial Building. With section 5.1 of the town charter designates the town council as the governing and legislative body of the town, and whereas RSA 41.11A authorizes the legislative body to enter into land leases exceeding 5 years in length, and whereas the town has enjoyed a long-standing relationship with both the Greater Derry Arts Council and the Greater Derry Londonderry Chamber of Commerce as tenants in the Adams Building, and whereas the Arts Council and Chamber have reviewed their space needs and agreed to rearrange office space in the Adams Memorial Building, and whereas the sole impact of this change is an adjustment in rental charges, which is revenue neutral to the town, now therefore be it resolved in council that the town administrator is hereby authorized to execute an amended lease document with the Greater Derry Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Derry Arts Council for the balance of their respective lease terms. Resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage, should be adopted February 6th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, motion by Council McEachern, seconded by Council Katz-Corus. On the motion, Council Cherichello. Council Katz-Corus.
Yes.
Council Flood.
Yes.
Council Grassy.
Yes.
Council McEachern.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Motion carries 6-0. Council comments, questions? I just want to. All right, I just want to comment on the boards and committees, to all them, all the hard work they've done over the past year. Thank you for all of that. For those at home, we have vacancies on some of the boards. Go online, you can look and see what the vacancies are and what the things entail. And lastly, and most importantly, happy 25th birthday to Owen.
Hey, happy birthday, Owen.
And thank you for all you do in this past year. You are noticed as well, the unsung hero of the room. It's all the technology, so thank you.
Appreciate it.
With
Thank
that,
you very
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, so moved. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned.